There are two types of teams in the National Football League: those that have a quarterback and those that don't. Those that have a quarterback can someday entertain the thought of potentially contending for and winning a world championship. And those that don't have a quarterback, they can kiss those dreams goodbye. And they're going to be scrambling like hell to find a quarterback. Because in today's NFL, you must have a franchise quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You must have a franchise quarterback to even contend for a Super Bowl. It's that simple. It really, truly is. There is no argument against this. There is no train of thought that says this isn't the case. This is true. This is something that everybody understands and everybody acknowledges. And in particular, in today's NFL, it is critically important to find your own young quarterback via the draft him, develop him, build around him, and create a championship type of environment. When you look at the past 14 Super Bowl champions, 12 of them, 12 of the 14 drafted their own starting quarterback. Plain and simple. You have to have a franchise quarterback in order to consider winning a championship. And you must, in this day and age of the NFL, draft your own quarterback. It has so many positive salary cap ramifications, especially for the first several years of that young quarterback's career. You're also not talking about having to tie up big time money and draft picks into trading, let's say, for a guy that has already had several years past in his NFL career. When you talk about building a championship team in the National Football League, it's so often why it's the case when you have a new general manager, a new head coach. One of the first things, if not the first things they do, is bring in a young quarterback via the draft. Because at the end of the day, that is going to be the measuring stick for that organization. The quarterback is the star. The quarterback is the most important player in any of the North American professional sports, and I would argue in any sport around the world. You must have a quarterback. You must have a quarterback. And that's why I think for the Tennessee Titans, who sit there with the number 2 pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, they have one choice and one choice alone, and only one real legitimate option if they ever want to be any type of notable, credible, championship contending team. They must draft Marcus Mariota with the 2nd overall pick in the 2015 NFL Draft. Now, I know the train of thought out there by some is that Mariota is a system guy, and he could only maybe work in Chip Kelly's system at Oregon. There's a lot of concerns about how his game translates to the NFL and so on and so forth. But I see a guy that has a lot of the necessary skills, and maybe if he doesn't fit your system at the NFL level, maybe there's a problem with your system and not the player, and maybe you need to figure out a way to make your system fit the skills of the player. You would think that's what good coaching would do anyways. When you're talking about the Tennessee Titans, even though the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the number 1 overall pick, and there are other organizations that are thought of as bigger jokes over a longer period of time, such as the Oakland Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars, for my money, the worst team in the National Football League in 2014 was the Tennessee Titans. They had, other than maybe Jarrell Casey, pretty much absolutely nothing. This is a team that lacks an identity. This is a team that lacks any type of real talent, frankly, on either side of the ball. They are, to me, the worst team in the National Football League. They are one of the worst organizations in the National Football League. And one of the major reasons for that is they've never been able to adjust to life after Steve McNair. You had Vince Young. He had his moment, but he ultimately flamed out. They drafted Jake Locker 8th overall in 2011, and he predictably flamed out. He couldn't stay healthy, and even when he was healthy, he never really showed that he could be a big-time starting quarterback. You've seen with the Tennessee Titans the importance of hitting on a quarterback like they did so many years ago with Steve McNair back in '95 out of Alcorn State with that 3rd overall pick. But you also see the damage that can be done to an organization when you miss on a quarterback. See Vince Young, see Jake Locker. It sets your organization back years. So I understand why many Tennessee Titans fans and maybe many people in the national football media believe that the Tennessee Titans would be best suited staying away from quarterback with the number 2 overall pick, especially with some of the questions about Marcus Mariota's game. And that a lot of people will view somebody like a Leonard Williams, somebody who could fit very well as a 3-4 defensive end in that Titans defense, play opposite Jarrell Casey and have a real force there I could see why a lot of people think that that's the direction for that team to go, or that this team maybe needs to explore the possibility of trading down, accumulating some draft picks because they are so bereft of talent on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball that they need help all over the place. And it's going to take a long time to build the Titans into a championship team. And maybe this isn't the best time or the best year or the best place for them to get a quarterback. And maybe another year would be a better time and a better place for it. And maybe Mariota's not the guy. But I counter with this. Number one, I don't think Leonard Williams is as great of a player as so many have made him out to be. Furthermore, I don't think he's the best 3-4 defensive lineman in this draft. I think that's Danny Shelton out of Washington. Also, when you're talking about having the number 2 overall pick, and you're a team that went 2-14 last year, is the best way to reinvigorate and rebuild your franchise to take a defensive end in a 3-4 scheme? If you were guaranteed that the guy was going to develop into J.J. Watt, maybe. But does Leonard Williams have J.J. Watt type of skills, J.J. Watt type of potential? No, I don't really think so. Because frankly, when you look at it, J.J. Watt's here, and it's like any other player at 3-4 defensive end is way down here, if not even lower. When you look at it, a 3-4 defensive end, by and large, is not going to have the flashiest numbers, is not going to be the guy that a defense is ultimately built around and designed to showcase. In a 3-4, that typically would be your outside linebackers. Those are the guys that are supposed to be the ones that really make the defense go, not a 3-4 defensive end. Frankly, the nose tackle on that defensive line would have more importance than that 5 technique end. And you're talking about a Titans team spending the 2nd overall pick on a guy like that? I don't know. And then we talk about the whole trade situation. And you hear some thoughts on, well, what if the Titans could get a package similar to what the Rams got from the Redskins back in 2012 to trade down in order to be able to have the Redskins take RG3 and then the Rams do their own things. They accumulated all types of picks, and that was also star-spangled awesome. Well, except for the fact that 3 years later, the Rams still haven't made the playoffs since that big deal. Yes, they haven't drafted terribly, but they haven't drafted well enough. They're still searching for a quarterback because they missed on Sam Bradford. They were stubborn on Sam Bradford. They waited too long to get rid of Sam Bradford, and now they decided to gamble on somebody else's ultimately failed quarterback from Philadelphia, and Nick Foles. And you're talking about a Rams team that finished 6-10 in 2014. So is that really the pattern that you want to follow? Is that really the mold you want to follow? Well, I don't think so. You know, I look at the Tennessee Titans, and I see a team that, above anything else, needs an identity. They need leadership. They need somebody to be the star of that franchise. They need somebody to be the face of that franchise. They need somebody to be the building block of that franchise. And that is not a 3-4 defensive end. That is not going to come via trading down and accumulating additional picks. That is, in this particular case, only going to come one way and one way only, and that is by taking a quarterback. In this particular case, it's going to be Marcus Mariota. When you look at a guy like Mariota, people could talk about how raw he is and how much work he's going to need, and I think that's a whole lot of bullshit. The bottom line is you could make an argument that any young quarterback that you bring in, no matter what, is going to need work. You know, if you're going to sit there and say Mariota needs a ton of work, well, Winston needs a ton of work too. If you think he's just a slam dunk franchise quarterback, you're a moron. You clearly didn't watch his film in 2014. That doesn't mean that he won't be. That doesn't mean that he can't be, because Winston probably will be, and I believe that he ultimately will be. But I look at Mariota, and I think this is a guy similar to, like, let's say, a Ryan Tannehill in Miami that can be a franchise changer in the sense that it may take him a little while, yes, to develop and get his feet under him. But once he does, you could see that progression, and he will get better and better and better. And what will start to happen is, unlike if you draft, let's say, a Leonard Williams, or unlike if you trade down and get additional picks, you will have a guy like Marcus Mariota that in the next couple of years in free agency, you're going to have players on both sides of the ball and teams all throughout the league that normally would never even consider the Tennessee Titans, no matter how much money they threw at them. They would look at the team and say, you know what, they got Marcus Mariota. I want to go play with that guy. You look at the Indianapolis Colts in free agency. Is it any accident that every year Ryan Grigson is able to close the deal and get so many free agents to come there? Guys like Arthur Jones last year, guys like Frank Gore and Andre Johnson this year. No, it's not a coincidence. It's not an accident. We can point to Grigson and his great closing abilities as a deal maker, as a general manager, but at the end of the day, it's because he has Andrew Luck. People want to come play with Andrew Luck. It's just like in New England. People want to come play with Tom Brady. For all those years, people wanted to play with Peyton Manning. People want to play with Aaron Rodgers. People want to play with Drew Brees, and so on and so forth. That franchise quarterback can have so much impact on that organization on so many different levels in so many different ways. And you could sit there and say Mariota might not be the guy. And he might not. He might end up being another flameout or a washout like a Vince Young or a Jake Locker. But you can't be afraid to pull the trigger. You can't be afraid to try, because here's what I guarantee you. You could take a Leonard Williams or somebody else with number 2, or you could trade down and take a bunch of other players, and that's all fine and good. But until you have that quarterback, it doesn't matter. And the only way you're going to find that quarterback is to draft that quarterback, bring that quarterback in, develop that quarterback, and then, goddammit, build around that quarterback. That's the only way you're going to become any type of contending team in the National Football League. That's the only way you're going to become a championship contending team in the NFL in any way, shape, or form. Like, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to be drafting most likely Jameis Winston number 1 overall. And when you look at the fact they have Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson, there's some reason for optimism long-term in Tampa Bay. You look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think Blake Bortles is going to be the guy long-term, but there's at least still some hope for optimism there because Blake Bortles is a young quarterback. You look at the Oakland Raiders. Derek Carr has made the Raiders look like a slightly more appealing situation in spite of the organization itself, because Derek Carr had some moments in 2014 as a rookie, and it looks like he could get better going forward into year number 2. If you're the Tennessee Titans, what do you have? You don't have shit. Well, let me take that back. You have Jarrell Casey and Kendall Wright, and that's about it. You must get that guy. And the only position that you can get that guy at is at quarterback. And the only way you can get that guy at that position at quarterback is to draft him. The Tennessee Titans can't get cute. The Tennessee Titans can't overthink this. The Tennessee Titans can't try to out-sleuth or outsmart themselves or think they know better than they do, because they don't. And their 2-14 record in 2014 clearly indicates that. They must play it safe. They must play it smart. And the way to do that is for the Tennessee Titans to select Marcus Mariota with the 2nd overall pick in the 2015 NFL Draft. Shut out the noise. Filter out the bullshit. Do the right thing. Drafting Mariota is the right thing. Doing anything else is the wrong thing.